2020, the Michael Bay movie that nobody asked for. But despite murder hornets, a global pandemic, Jeffrey Epstein, the rise of rumors and conspiracy theories about 5G, Bill Gates, QAnon, we still have to deal with police brutality and the systems that enable them to murder Black people without any consequences. Well, it seems like this time, many of us have had enough. And today we're talking about how the Black Lives Matter movement has gone global and how different digital communities are taking part in the protest. We'll get into hackers, hexers, fairies, and more. When the government sent in the military, it was BTS's army that answered the people's call for help. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Rahaf and this is United We Stand, the show that covers advanced internet culture analysis. Today we're talking about what it means to protest in the digital age, how the internet is taking different communities of people and bringing them together, and how support for this movement is coming from some of the most unlikeliest of sources. Now, before we get started, I want to pass the mic to some of the Black voices in this movement so that you can hear from them directly what this experience has been like. Take a look.
Things I can't do while Black. I can't wear a hoodie. I can't go to the store. I can't shop. I can't sell CDs. I can't sell cigarettes. I can't play in the parks. I can't play loud music. I can't get a traffic ticket. I can't drive. I can't take the train. I can't go to my own party. I can't celebrate New Year's. I can't live. I can't jog. I can't breathe. I can't sleep in my own home. I can't relax in my own home. I can't be safe in police custody. I just can't.
In the video description below, you'll find links to petitions you can sign, organizations you can donate to, as well as a list of resources that have been curated by members of the Black community to help us use this moment to face our own participation in systems that deliberately oppress and marginalize Black people and other people of color. Now, before we get into it, a short recap brought to you by none other than the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Is that everyone?
But you wanted more?
Avengers!
As you can see, there is a lot going on. So first up, let's talk about the creation of community coalitions. Now, normally when we talk about digital communities, we talk about them in isolation. So the K-pop community or the Marvel fandom or Swifties. But as I've watched the protests unfold, both on the streets and online, I've noticed a new intensity and richness of cross-collaborations happening between these communities. Or to put it another way, these digital tribes are forming alliances and becoming coalitions, creating a broader ecosystem of interconnected collectives. Not only are we seeing protests in support of BLM extend beyond the US and take place in 18 other countries, but we're seeing online support from previously unconnected communities. I believe these coalitions will change the culture of communities online. So if level 1 of digital communities was people finding their own group of like-minded individuals, then this next iteration is those groups finding other like-minded groups. And the other thing to consider is that many of these groups are now operating across multiple platforms. So for example, Kpop Stans have presences on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Tumblr. And I wrote about this several years ago because there was one point in the evolution of online communities that we considered those communities to be contained on a specific platform. But that's no longer the case. And while we've had inter-community cooperation before, the scale and the reach of what's happening right now is new. So it's one thing for Black Lives Matter to call on other communities to support their cause, or for one fandom to call on its own members to support BLM. But what's new is when adjacent communities like Anonymous or K-pop fans, they call on other fandoms to support BLM, and those fandoms show up. Welcome to the era of digital coalitions.
It's over. Look who we got. We got Anonymous. We have witches. We have the Amish. We got people of color. We got LGBT plus people. And we got the fucking Karens. We will literally hack you, hex you, have God forsake you, speak to the manager about you, never cook you delicious food ever again or share culture with you, and have no one fucking do your hair or be your interior decorator.
Let's talk about the coalitions that have been formed in support of BLM. Now remember, coalitions can have varying levels of permanence. They can grow in strength, or after the call to action fades, they can disperse. Well, what will be interesting to see is how many of these relationships remain after the movement has moved on to the next phase. So one of the biggest developments in recent days was the return of Anonymous, the famous hacker collective that came out of retirement to support BLM with a bang. Now, I'll do a whole separate deep dive on Anonymous, including Operation Death Eaters, their fascinating and morally ambiguous history, as well as the role of vigilantes in the pursuit of justice on a later episode. But for now, we know that they showed up, they hacked the Minnesota police websites, jammed police scanners, and released documents linking Donald Trump to deceased alleged child rapist Jeffrey Epstein. And they did all of this in like 4 hours. So love them or hate them, they certainly know how to make an impact. They're kind of like the digital equivalent of Batman. They leverage technology in an anonymous way, they keep their identities hidden, and they deliver justice when they feel the systems in place have failed. But Anonymous joining the fight isn't really as unexpected as some of the other participants that pulled up.
We have to do something, and we have to do it now.
Who's that?
Father, hear me, help me, join me, won't you sing along? Now we're gonna be evil, it's true, never gonna think twice, and we're gonna be spiteful, yes, spiteful.
That's right, witches. In a strong show of unity, the witch community called all members to action. This is interesting because this specific online community is quite diverse and has extensive niches and micro-communities of practitioners who have very different approaches. For example, some who follow Norse gods or Greek gods or pagans or Wiccans. And this collective action has been seen across many of these sub-pockets. In particular, practitioners were asked to do spell work and take advantage of the full moon, which was on June 5th, and a time of augmented energy to cast protection spells, write sigils, and even put hexes on those who would dare to harm the innocent. Tutorials on TikTok showed novices, or baby witches as they're affectionately called, how to light candles to protect protesters and other helpful tips to show their solidarity. Now, witches have been online for decades, so to see this community join in a coalition has been great because I've been seeing people get educated about this particular spiritual practice. And they've expressed how their own views about things like witchcraft have changed. We're witnessing friendships happening across these digital borders, and this is an example of how a social uprising can also create positive ripples of increased solidarity between normally disconnected digital tribes.
So I just did a live stream, and a bunch of the people in the live stream were pagans, and they told me that they're putting protective spells and wards on me, and now I'm friends with witches. Let's go!
The arrival of another ally group that was surprising to many was Kpop Stans, or Korean pop music for those who are new to the term. They stepped in and flexed their collective digital force. Here's what you need to know about how these fandoms work. One, they're huge, and they're incredibly skilled at amplifying their messages and sharing them at scale. You see, during the normal times, there's always competitions about which fandom can get their group to trend on social media. It's a source of pride to show how powerful and influential your favorite group is. So for example, last year when BTS released their fourth album, Map of the Soul, BTS's fan base, known as ARMY, generated over 17 million tweets in 48 hours in support of the album. So coordinating these campaigns is a regular part of being in this community, who will rally around a group member's birthday, a new release, really anything. So if you look at Twitter on any given day, you'll see at least one K-pop related hashtag trending. They're active, they have a big reach, and they're talented at taking a hashtag and blasting it across the web. And there have been many times when K-pop fandoms have put their differences aside and come together, but normally the causes are insular. It's around K-pop industry issues like unfair contracts or toxic fans or cyberbullying. But this time, Kpop Stans rallied in support of BLM. So first, they coordinated a pause on all hashtag wars in order to give the Black Lives Matter tag the amplification that it deserved online. They suspended fan campaigns even though there were several highly anticipated releases in order to promote the BLM hashtag instead. And this is huge. Then they turned their hashtag cannons on other tags that popped up, including the hugely racist White Lives Matter hashtag. When this tag emerged, Kpop stans were having none of it. They hijacked the tag and flooded it with clips of K-pop. They used the same approach when police departments were urging people to identify and report protesters in various apps. They flooded reporting lines with K-pop songs, and they flooded the app with fan cams. And it was amazing to see. When I logged onto Twitter and saw White Lives Matter trending, I just felt this drop in my stomach. And then I clicked and I started laughing because it was just clips of BTS and SHINee and 17. I will say that these flooding techniques do go both ways, and there are times when hashtags are also hijacked by darker forces, but in this case, the K-pop fandom seems to have emerged victorious. And now, if you're ready for some passive-aggressive excellence, let me introduce you to the backhanded compliment I call the fairy shade, usually because it includes the fairy emoji. It goes like this. You start off by saying something that appears to be nice, then you insert the fairy emoji and turn the rest of the sentence into an insult. It started off as a joke on TikTok, but now it's being used to troll the President of the United States. As you can see, his Instagram account was flooded with so many of these comments that comments had to be disabled. I found this interesting because this particular type of fairy shade isn't driven by one particular fandom. It seems to be a coalition approach, meaning witches, hackers, LGBTQA, BLM, and other specific fandoms were using it against a particular target. And again, this is a coalition activity because normally fandoms that use emojis to swarm someone do so in a very coordinated way. So when you piss off the Bajancy, you'll get bee emojis, and Swifties use rats and snakes to express their displeasure. But this particular fairy shade is not specific to only one group, and it's creating new ways that show how coalitions can be mobilized together in different ways. I'll be watching this space and reporting back, so be sure you're subscribed.
If you're going to a protest, please watch this. We are the techie side of TikTok. This is how to secure your devices and your identity while protesting. 1. Do not post on social media about your attendance or your whereabouts. Do not click attending on Facebook events. Cops go through these to make arrests weeks to months after protests. 2. Download the Signal app to communicate with your friends. They encrypt your messages and will automatically delete them after a certain period of time. Disable location services on all of your apps. Most of them track you in the background.
I want to talk about protesting in general. Technology has changed the way that we protest. Posting online or changing your avatar have become ways to signal your support. And platforms like Facebook have made it possible to organize protests in real life. And users are even taking over platforms as a form of protest. For example, TikTok users declared that May 19th would be a Black Creators Day and encouraged all community members to specifically follow and engage with accounts that were run by Black creators. We're also seeing people using technology in these platforms to educate each other online, with tutorials covering everything from what clothes to wear during a protest to how to protect your data while protesting, even about talking to your friends about race. But all of this technology is also a double-edged sword, because as people use social networks to mobilize, they have to increasingly consider the digital trails they leave behind. There are some police departments that are using the who attended lists from FB event pages as a way to identify and potentially arrest supporters. It will be interesting to see how these practices emerge, but I predict there'll be more hidden groups and other techniques to enable people to hide their digital footprint if they're thinking about participating. The rise of these coalitions is impacting the web as a whole culturally through the increased spread of protest-related content. I think one of the reasons videos have gone viral so quickly during this time is that they're being shared by a number of communities, not just BLM. That, and in addition to the prevalence of phone cameras, is fueling an increased awareness of these issues that many of us haven't seen before. We're witnessing the evolution of digital coalitions. And while right now they're being used to raise awareness for BLM, I also expect that there will be coalitions that emerge in support of white supremacy. And we're going to have to deal with that evolution across the board. But for now, while there is still so much work to be done, it makes me happy to see so many communities coming together and forming new and hopefully positive and lasting friendships across community lines. Seeing witches and Kpop Stans forming friendships has just been really heartwarming. I hope it will lead to more people discovering that they have more in common than not. I'm Rahaf. Thank you so much for watching United We Stand, and I'll see you next time.